Good morning. I'd like to talk about CleanTech lithium and our aim to produce green lithium for the EV future, which is already upon us. We're in Chile. We have three lithium brine projects. Laguna Verde, Francisco Basin are within 100 kilometers of each other at altitude 4,300 meters. And a greenfield exploration project, Yamara, about 600 kilometers to the north. We started working last year. We've already declared 2 million tons of lithium carbonate equivalent. We're carrying on drilling this year, and we'll be upgrading those resources by the middle of this year. Unlike virtually all other lithium brine projects, the Laguna Verde Francisco Basin, we control the entire basin, which is very important when you use direct lithium extraction, which we will be doing, and I'll explain more later. The board and management of CleanTech Lithium is very experienced in executing large mining capital projects, particularly in Chile, where we've done a number. We listed on AIM only in March last year, and during the course of the year raised 22 million pounds to finance all of our technical studies during the course of this year. After the listing on AIM, we have been listed now in Germany, and encouraged by investment funds in the US, we have listed on OTC, and we will be listing on ASX late July, middle of August. Major shareholders, the directors and management hold just under 20% of the company, and our major shareholder is Regal Funds out of Australia with about 16%, and then a whole number of institutions. We've had a lot of good coverage during the course of this year, recognizing we're in a very good position in Chile. Forbes, Canaccord Genuity, Mining.com have all picked CleanTech Lithium as one of the top stocks for investment in this space. We all know the demand for lithium is increasing very rapidly in the world, particularly in the EU, where we're expecting a 20 times increase in demand during the course of this decade. This has been driven by the EU's drive to decarbonize the economy and pushing the motor vehicle industry to electrify as quickly as it can. But on top of that, what the EU is also demanding is that the supply chain of materials going into those batteries also are decarbonized. And that is, again, very important for our company, which I'll come to just now. The projects themselves, Laguna Verde is the most advanced project. We control the entire basin. We put in a 4-well program last year, declared 1.5 million tons of LCE. We've done another 2 holes which have been completed in this drilling season. Those results will be out with a resource upgrade at the end of May. We expect to see a significant increase in the measured and indicated resource proportion as well. As you can see from the slide, being up at altitude, we're almost bereft of any flora and fauna, and there are no people living within 100 kilometers of site, which will make it, I think, very much easier to get the environmental permits. We are doing baseline studies at the moment. We completed a scoping study on Laguna Verde. Results were issued in January, and looking at a base project of 20,000 tons a year of lithium carbonate, we had very robust economics, capex just under $400 million, operating cost just under $4,000 a ton, which puts us in the lowest quartile of cost producers in the world. And the economics, the after-tax and royalty, NPV, $1.8 billion, 8% discount rate, 45% IRR, very, very robust. We've continued onto the pre-feasibility study, engaged Worley, the large Australian engineering company based in Santiago. They've done a tremendous amount of work for both engineering and construction for Albemarle and SQM in Chile. That work will be finished by the end of this year. Our second project there, Francisco Basin's probably about 6 months behind Laguna Verde. For the first drill hole ever done in the basin last year, and had higher grades than at Laguna Verde. Laguna Verde was about 200 ppm lithium. Francisco Basin is about 300 ppm lithium. declared an inferred resource of 500,000 tons. We couldn't continue after the one hole because of the winter snows closed the entire area. We have continued this year with another 3-hole program. That'll be completed by the end of this month. So end of second quarter, early third quarter, we'll have a significant resource upgrade to Francisco Basin. We are also undertaking a scoping study. We expect the very similar robust economics at Francisco Basin to Laguna Verde. Because the two projects are within 100 kilometers, there may be some synergies in terms of downstream processing between the two projects. Our third project, Yamara, up in the north, is at about 1,000 meters elevation, much lower. It's just northwest of the Salar de Atacama. No work has been done in this area previously, but on surface there are crusts of lithium salts. We obtained geophysics from oil and gas exploration that was done in this area some years ago. And there's a TEM geophysics line at the bottom with that light magenta color, indicative of high conductivity, low resistivity solution. So this says, yes, there is a very strong saline aquifer down there. We have the first drill hole going in as we speak. They're down to about 150 meters. If the grade here is significant and is close to Laguna Verde and Francisco Basin, then we can have a very large project here because we hold 340-odd square kilometers of land area. Our strategy to develop the company is that we are unlike virtually every other junior lithium company that seeks to go out and get offtake contracts, non-binding offtake contracts with battery companies. We said that's premature. We would rather establish the resources that we have available to us, demonstrate the technology of DLE is very applicable to these brines, and it is the most appropriate technology to go into the future. Establish through our scoping PFS studies the economic valuation of the projects, and we will then get into discussion with potential strategic partners. And these have widened out tremendously in the course of the last year. Now, previously it was the Chinese and the Asian battery companies looking for offtake. Since that time, as people recognize there's a structural shortage in lithium in this next decade, we're starting to see the battery manufacturers themselves, the car companies taking positions in this space, other major mining companies like Rio Tinto entering the lithium space for the first time. And we'll take our time to select who is the best partner for us going forward. And we will expect that in return to giving offtake contracts, we expect that strategic partner to mobilize the largest part of the construction capital that we will need. Direct lithium extraction, explaining a little bit more. Unlike the conventional production in Chile, which is evaporation ponds, and in a desert that's environmentally a cause of concern, leading to a lot of political issues, particularly in the Salar de Atacama. Here we pump the brine out of the aquifer. We then absorb the lithium onto resin specifically designed to absorb lithium, and then re-inject the brine back into the aquifer so that there is no depletion of water from the aquifer at all. We then use fresh water to elute the lithium off the resin, concentrate it further, polish it through ion exchange, remove the last traces of boron, calcium, magnesium, and then precipitate lithium carbonate to battery grade. We have done this at laboratory scale. We've produced lithium carbonate samples. They've been analyzed here in Germany at greater than 99.9% lithium carbonate. The advantages of DLE is that no water depletion from the aquifer. The recovery rate is about 85% of the lithium compared to the 45% from evaporation ponds. And you're producing lithium hours after pumping it from the aquifer, not 18 months to 2 years of an evaporation cycle with the evaporation ponds. We're working, there's lots of DLE technologies being looked at around the world. Most of them are in pilot plant or demo plant stage. We're working with Sun Resin. That's a $4.5 billion Chinese company, largest producer of resin in the world and the leading producer of DLE process equipment in the world. They have 3 plants already established, up and running at commercial scale in China and doing others. If we look at Chile, there's been quite a lot of issue in the last week since the president of Chile announced the national lithium strategy. A lot of the world media has said this is nationalization. It is not nationalization. Chile regards lithium as a strategic mineral. Only the state at the moment is allowed to produce lithium, and it does so by giving operating contracts to companies. So Albemarle and SQM have operating contracts in place. They are being respected by the government. The government has said they would like to participate in those projects, and then will extend the contracts after. The state, through its entities Codelco and Anami, already hold a number of lithium assets which they have not advanced at all. They are saying the way forward is to work in public-private partnership, and they will allow private investment into those projects. The third category is ours, where we have exploration permits, and the government has said, if you want to go into exploitation, you can do so, apply for an operating contract, and if you want to, you have the option to invite in state participation at a minority position, if it's in your interest to do so. Chile is in a very favored position. The United States signed the Inflation Reduction Act last year, requiring by 2026, 80% of all the materials going to batteries in the United States must come from either within the United States or from countries that have a free trade agreement with the United States. Currently, the only country that's a producer of battery-grade lithium carbonate or hydroxide that has an FTA with the United States is Chile. So we believe that we have very strong advantages in terms of moving our material into the United States, and it also opens up the possibility of accessing some of those IRA funds. ESG is a very strong part of our values. Our aim is to produce green lithium, and that is with zero carbon or close to zero carbon. Chile has been developing very rapidly its renewable energy base. It's now just about 60% renewables, solar and hydro. We aim to run our project 100% on renewables, signing a PPA with one of those renewable energy companies. People talk about a small junior company raising $400 million. Now, clearly in Chile, you can have up to 75% debt going into the project, with the potential for bank financing, being a very robust project, payback time in 18 months. We believe we've got strategic partners in their potential of IRA funding, ESG funds. I don't believe raising the $400 million is going to be a great difficulty and minimize dilution for our shareholders. If we look at these buttons, why this is a very strong project, we're looking at a short lead time to production. We aim to be in first production at Laguna Verde early in 2026, using DLE technology through Sun Resin that's up and running, and you can see it in the world. Chile has excellent infrastructure, not just physical infrastructure, all the roads, rail, ports, energy, but human infrastructure. It's one of the most favored mining destinations in the world. All the people there are well experienced working in the mining industry. All the consultants, engineering companies are there. We are up at 4,300 meters, I say almost no flora and fauna. We don't expect to have any problems getting the environmental permits. The government is saying we want to advance the lithium industry. We want Chile to get back to being the leading lithium producer in the world. And they will be very supportive of this project, particularly using DLE. We're currently financed through our programs through the end of this year. As I say, we will be listing in Australia in late July, August, and depending on the markets, we may take the advantage of raising a bit more to finance the program for 2024. With the PFS complete at the end of the year, we'll be engaging with strategic partners and deciding who to bring on into the project. My last slide is an interesting one. If you look at CleanTech Lithium, blue block on the left-hand side, 40,000 ton projected capacity, current valuation $70 million. All the blocks on the right are development projects. One of the closest comparables to us is the Lake Resources Cachi project in Argentina. They're at DFS at the moment, 25,000 ton a year projected capacity. Their lithium grade is about the same as us, 200 ppm or so. But you look at their market capitalization, $877 million compared to our 70. So we expect that with the strong news flow that we'll be pushing out in the course of the next 6 to 9 months, and together with our listing in Australia, where there'll be a greater appreciation, there is a greater appreciation for mining projects, particularly lithium projects. We expect a very good reception there. And we can expect during the course of this year to see a re-rating of our share price closer to those of our peer group. And thank you. If there's anybody who wants to come and chat more, we're in room 25. And questions?
Thank you very much, Steve.
Thank you.